Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hoge, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
I'm AJ Hoge, author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. Our topic today, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. Right now, I am live on YouTube. It's been a long time. Let's jump in. I'll come back and answer chats, answer questions, and discuss why I've been gone so much lately. Hey, Vladislav, good to see you, as always. All right, don't lose hope. So, a little bit of heavy, serious topic today. And this topic was inspired by actually a couple of things, but one was a story from my wife's extended family. So not like really close, but still a sad story about there's someone in the family and their kind of young teenage daughter killed herself, which was, it's sad, it's tragic. And then, as a parent, it's a terrifying thought and idea, just so sad. And then, I've just, then just reading about, this kind of thing happens, where young people especially completely lose hope. And the worst situation, the most sad situation is when they kill themselves, right? But even kids that don't kill themselves, I know. I'm going to talk about my own story today. Just, I hope that it might be encouraging to some people. But there are a lot of people who just, maybe they don't kill themselves, but they are just depressed and sad and miserable for very, very, very long time, and some people, people lose hope. A lot of people lose hope because it's very tough. It's very tough. Most of us can handle a bad time, a tough time in life. We expect that. But when the tough time is more than 1 year, it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, then it starts to feel like a hopeless situation. And that's where people, when you're miserable and very, very, very unhappy for that long, yeah, it's definitely possible to start losing hope. There's a good word in English, despair. And despair means that feeling of having no hope at all. Like, it's more than just depressed. It's more than sad. Like, everybody gets sad. Okay, we have sad things happen in life. That's normal. It's everyone that happens. But despair is when you completely have no hope at all. And it's a very sad situation. I think it's especially tough for younger people because, when you're older, one good thing when you're older is that you have more, a bigger view of life, and, things go up and things go down, and you have hard times and you have better times. But when you're younger, especially very young, like 13, 14, 15, 18, 20 even, it just feels like forever. If you've been miserable since you were 12, maybe some people have very bad families and very painful family lives. So some people, they're sad and have a very hard time right from the beginning. And then they're 12, 13, 15 years old, and it just feels like forever. You can tell them, hey, it's going to get better in 5 years, but 5 years feels like forever. Okay? I also know, a lot of my listeners are in the ages of 20s and 30s. And a lot of people get into their 30s. This happens a lot too, where, maybe they're 30, 32, 35, and life is still great. And not great, rather. Not great. And, maybe their career still isn't going. They're not making much money. Like, they just feel like a total failure. And then they start to feel this pressure like it's too late. I'm already 35. All my friends, my other family members, they've got these great careers, they've got families, everything's going well, and I'm doing nothing. And this is another time where people can really, really, really lose hope. And it's brutal, it's sad, and people do some terrible things when they're miserable and unhappy and when they despair. So my show today is really talking to those people, especially, or anyone else that might know someone like that, and to help you. One second. To help you maybe help someone else as well, right? So first, I'd like to tell kind of story of my own life a little bit when I was young, and the reason I want to tell it is just to show that life can be very, very tough when you're young, and that even when it's bad, it's still possible to change. Right? It's never too late. It's never too late. As long as you're alive, it's not too late. As long as you're alive and your body is functioning and your mind is, functioning decently well, it's not too late. So, actually, I'm 58 now. So now looking back, I look back and I realize that, I was pretty miserable, very unhappy, clueless, confused for, pretty much my entire youth, from teenager to through my 20s and through most of my 30s as well. I was bullied, bullied, bullied like crazy, like terribly, in middle school and in high school, and I before that, everything was great. I had a really nice childhood. But my family moved a lot. My dad moved us around because of his job, and when I was middle school age, right at the beginning of middle school, we moved to a different part of the country, and we went up to the north part of the country. I'd always grown up in the south, and so I had this strong southern accent. And so when we moved to the north, and I was kind of a geeky kid, small kid, skinny, uh, very kind of quiet. So when we moved, everybody started bullying me because of my accent, because I had this strong accent, and this, it's kind of, they thought it was, kind of like what's the, it's like a countryside accent, right? They thought they were kind of like the cool big city kids, and I was this weird kid from the countryside. So I got bullied, 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 and it got really bad. It was like these groups of boys are really mean, and it was terrible. And I felt, horrible at that time. It was really terrible, terrible experience. And then it continued into high school. So really terrible. And I kind of became even more quiet and introverted and geeky, nerdy. I don't know what's the word now. Geeky, nerdy, I guess, are still common words, right? So I'd like, I guess nowadays it would be people who like gaming, video games, manga, anime. We didn't really have a lot of anime when I was a kid, but it was that kind of stuff, right? I was into Lord of the Rings and all that kind of thing. Then, like then from my teenage years and through my 20s and through my 30s, I was totally clueless and confused and incredibly unhappy with dating and girls, women. Like really, really, really terrible. And I had like, I was, betrayed by a couple of girlfriends, which was like horrible, like, oh, if you've had it happen to you, it's brutal. And I didn't know why, and I didn't understand why. And I tried to be such a nice guy, nice guy, nice guy. And any of you guys out there who try to do the nice guy thing when dating, you know how it often turns out not very well, because you don't get respected. You don't get respect. So I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do, what I'd been taught in terms of how to deal with girls and women and all this. And I was absolutely miserable. I look back now and I realize like I was so, so, so unhappy in this part of my life. And I let myself be treated so badly, so disrespectfully. And just, and I felt not quite despair, but felt miserable in this area of life. And I tried to date, or I'd stay with girls who treated me like crap, treated me so badly and made me feel miserable. But I would try to stay with them because I thought I couldn't do better. And it was horrible, horrible. And this, like I said, all through my 20s and all till I was about 38, 39, 40 is when that started to change. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then the final piece in my 20s and 30s, well, starting at, I guess, age 18, 19, 20, was money and work. Oh, I hated jobs. Maybe I'm a lazy person, I don't know. But I hated jobs. I was always so poor, especially in my 20s. I graduated from university and couldn't find any decent jobs. I got the only thing I could find was a part-time security job, right? But it was part-time. It paid like minimum wage. At that time, minimum wage was really low, and I could barely pay my rent. I started using credit cards and borrowing money just to eat and survive. And and then later it got a little better than that, but still I was always kind of unhappy at my jobs. I could never find jobs that I enjoyed. I really didn't enjoy working for other people in jobs at all. Maybe that was my problem, I don't know, but that was the case. So I was miserable financially and broke all the time, like poor. I was absolutely miserable with relationships, dating girls, and not just miserable. The worst part about the dating part is I was confused too. Like I was unhappy and I didn't really understand why I had such problems. I couldn't understand why was it so bad? Why couldn't I do better? Why was every time I tried to date or have a relationship, why was it always so miserable and unhappy? And I couldn't understand why. So, which is a terrible feeling. At least if something is in your life is bad, if you at least understand why, if you understand what you're doing wrong or what you could do better, you have some hope. But if you don't, then it's really terrible, right? Then it feels hopeless. So that is how horrible it was. Terrible, 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 terrible. Then finally, at the age of, well, it was really at the age of 38, suddenly, like, my life started to turn around. And the first improvement was financial, where I started a business that became successful. And actually, in a very fast, a very short time, after all those years of suffering, suddenly I was financially free and financially independent, and I didn't have to work a job anymore. And it was kind of a surprise to happen a little bit late in life, but it was fantastic, fantastic. And then the second thing from there, I also around that age, really about the age of 40, so pretty late, guys, 40, at the age of 40, which for a lot of you guys probably seems old. Some of you maybe not, but a lot of you guys probably think 40 is kind of old, and it is kind of old. I finally, I kind of got red pilled is the phrase we use. But I found some things online and books and things. I started learning about kind of like the reality, the truth of dating and men and women, and when it was like my eyes finally were open, like the light came from heaven, and I could finally say ah. So the first thing was I just finally understood. Now I understand why I'm so unhappy, why I'm such a failure in this area. And it was like in the Matrix, Neo taking the red pill to suddenly, whoa, nothing is like I thought it was. Everything is completely different. So I started to change that and things started to get better. My whole life didn't change in 1 year, but the process, it started to change and slowly get better and better and better. So, and the final part the physical thing. I still had these kind of, when I was really even all the way into my 30s, I think I still had a lot of doubts and insecurities and low confidence because of the bullying and everything. So at a kind of late age, actually the age of 50, 49, I started doing jujitsu. So again, very old to start doing something like that. But did jujitsu and you know, did it for about 5 years, got purple belt. And that completely changed. Like it kind of is better than therapy. It completely healed all those feelings, gave me great, really improved my confidence. My confidence also improved by doing things like public speaking and a lot of other things. But jujitsu was the final big one that really changed how I felt about myself and having that kind of deep, strong confidence. And uh, so from basically from age 40 to 50, my life internally, how I felt and thought, and externally, all the things happening in my life completely changed and transformed. And now I'm 58, you know, fairly old for a lot of you, 58 years old, but now my life is the best ever. Much better than when I was 20, much better than when I was 30, much better than when I was 40. I have a very happy with my family, my wife and my two kids, with the business, with everything. So what's the point for you? The point is that, see, things can turn around even at a late age. Okay, it's not too late. Even if you're 28 years old and you've just been miserable and unhappy and everything in your life has been bad. Maybe you were bullied. Maybe you are still poor and your career's terrible, you're not making any money, maybe you are miserable in dating, or what doesn't, if you're a man or a woman and haven't found anyone yet, and every time you try it's always disappointing and terrible situation and things go badly. It's not too late, okay? It's not too late. Don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. Don't despair, because maybe it's when you're 40, maybe it's when you're 50, everything can change. Everything can turn around. And there's some good things about that. Sometimes the other thing I would recommend is don't envy, don't be jealous, don't envy people who have easier lives than you. It's easy to do, but don't do it. Okay? And there's a few reasons to do that, because number one, sometimes people have a very, very easy life in the beginning. Like everything's easy for them when they're young. Let's take a girl, like a girl who's just super gorgeous, like a model, okay? 10 out of 10, super, super beautiful. Yeah, her life is super, super easy when she's a teenager, when she's in her 20s, right? She gets tons of attention from guys, and men will give her things for free and do anything to date her. And her life is just, everything's easy, easy, easy. She doesn't have to try much to do anything. She doesn't really need to develop a good personality. Nothing. It's all super easy. But if you read up on what happens to them when they get older, and by older, I mean like 35, everything changes, because that is a young, young, young person's career. And a lot of these like supermodels, they hit 35, they're already old. They're considered old women, right? They're used to life being easy and men just doing anything for them. And suddenly they're 35, they don't have kids, they're not married yet. And suddenly, like, everything becomes very hard. And a lot of them can't deal with it because they didn't have hardship earlier. All the hardship you might have in your life, especially when early in life, when you're young, all these problems, being miserable, all these problems will make you stronger. In fact, they are already making you stronger. You are dealing with all of this, and it is hard and it is terrible, but you're still surviving. And then later in life, things get a little easier, things get a little better. Well, now you can really just do amazing things. You're not used to life being easy. You don't expect life to be easy. You know you have to work. You know you have to improve yourself. You know it's not going to always be easy. So you can handle all of these things. When difficulties come, you're prepared. You've dealt with tough things in life already. But people who have everything easy in the beginning, later in life, when they have some hard problem, some things change, a lot of them fall apart. They fall apart and they can't handle it at all. So you have to think of all your problems, all your misery, all these terrible things are like they're training your soul, your spirit, your mind, and your emotions to be stronger and stronger. And this is going to help you as you get older. I promise you it will. So don't envy people who have it easy because, as Buddha, as Lord Buddha said, life is suffering. In other words, suffering is always going to come in life. It might come early, it might come late. You never know how it's going to come, but it will always come. So don't envy someone else because they're going to experience suffering too at some time, at some point. It might not be the same as you, but they will. So let me just finish this with just some practical points, especially again, like I said, these stories of these young people killing themselves just kind of affected me strongly, and so I'd like to give practical advice, a few things to do. I think the number one mindset, the thing to keep in your mind when you're really having a hard time in life, and especially if you're young and if you're feeling like without hope and it feels like, will it ever get better? Is to really focus on that Japanese idea of kaizen, which means tiny little improvements. Tony Robbins, he in English, he translates it as constant and never-ending improvement. But the key point about this is that you focus on making little tiny improvements. Because see, the truth is in life, what I found, and a lot of other people too, if you're just getting a little better, if you just feel like you're improving in some part of your life a little bit, you can handle tough times. So, I like to think of it as, each year I'm going to improve 5%, just 5%. So so you're not going to change your entire life in 1 year. It's unlikely. Some people do it, but that's very hard. It feels impossible sometimes, but you can improve 5%. And I recommend you focus on a few areas, especially when you're feeling almost hopeless in life. I recommend you first start with your body. Why? Why start with your body? Because you have the most control. You control your body. You have control over your exercise and what you eat. Sometimes emotions are hard to deal with. If you have a lot of pain, a lot of terrible experiences, and a lot of emotional issues, you can heal those. You should. But that can take time. It's complicated and it can be difficult. But your body, you can do it, okay? Even if you're in terrible shape or if you're in okay shape, you can be 5% better in 1 year. You can be 5% stronger, 5% better endurance, 5% healthier in terms of your eating, and that will make you start feeling better. So I recommend start an exercise program. You feel hopeless, you feel down, life is really terrible. Focus on the first thing you can easily control, and that's your body. Get in the gym, work out at home, train and run a marathon, even if you're never ran before and you're lazy. In 1 year, you can run a marathon. Okay, you can do a very slow, step-by-step training program. In 1 year, you could finish a marathon. That's a big improvement. That's more than 5% if you're not doing it now. If you want to focus on strength instead, fine, go to the gym or at home and start lifting weights or doing pull-ups and push-ups and body weight stuff. You definitely can get 5% stronger in 1 year, probably more than that. And if you need to lose weight, if you're kind of fat, again, you can do some kind of diet and very gradually lose weight. You could go low fat, or you could go like ketogenic, keto, either one, they both work. And, gradually in 1 year, you could easily lose 10 kilograms, 20 kilograms without anything, not too tough to do that if you just stick with it. So those are big changes. And even if everything else in life is terrible, when you feel like your body's getting better and healthier and stronger, it gives you some hope. It will give you some hope. You'll feel like, okay, something in my life is improving. And it sends a message to your brain also that I do have some control. I do have some control. I do have some control over my life. Right now, it's just my body, but I can make my life better. And you start physically. The second thing you do need to focus on your emotions. There's something called emotion, what is it called? Emotion focused therapy. You don't need to go to therapy. I don't recommend it, honestly, but you can find some books on this topic. You can do this by yourself in your home. So if you've got some issues, if you've been betrayed by a girlfriend or boyfriend, for example, if you had some kind of abuse in your life, all these things, then you definitely need to deal with that and heal it. Start that process. Start doing it. Start reading books on that topic. Check out emotion focused therapy. I think it's called EFT. There's some good books there that I think are helpful. Or look in other methods. It doesn't matter. Just start dealing with it. And that's going to take years, probably. Okay, that's more of a 5-year program at least, rather than 1 year. But if you just feel a little better, if you heal a little bit, it's enough to keep. It'll give you hope. If we have hope, if we feel it's meaningful, we can endure a lot of suffering. We can deal with a lot of pain and suffering if we feel that we have a purpose, if we feel there's some meaning in our life, and if we can feel that we are getting better, even if it's very, very, very slowly. Number 3, mentally, learn. You're already doing it, learning English. Just, exercise your brain, learn new things, constantly be learning. This is the thing that helped me get through my 20s and 30s and teenage years, is that I was just always trying to learn new skills. I was always trying new things all the time, all the time. And, little by little, year by year, I started to gain more confidence and get better at things like teaching English, like public speaking, like business, and all these things. It took many years to do this, but little by little. And I started to learn. I was so introverted, started learning how to be more social and talk to people, all of that, little by little by little. So develop your mental thinking. Again, little improvements every year. It's all you need. And the final one I would say is spiritual. I think this one's very important. Especially when you're suffering, especially when life is very, very tough and you're feeling really down and hopeless, you need a big view. You need meaning and purpose at a deep, deep, deep level. And that means what you can call it spirituality or call it religion, either one. And I'm not here to convert anyone to a specific religion, okay? So, it could be Sanatana Dharma, it could be Buddhism, it could be some form of Christianity, it could be some form of Islam, Taoism, Shintoism, okay? You can decide that yourself, but what a spiritual or religious practice gives you is it gives you a much bigger view of life and the meaning and purpose of life, so that your own suffering starts to make sense. You start to understand it. And then the final thing would be for social, to work on your social life a little bit, your social skills. This would include dating. If you're having a lot of pain in the area of dating, marriage, relationships, then if you're a man, by all means, red pill. Get on YouTube. There's a bunch of channels. Just put in red pill men, and a bunch of channels will pop up. Start watching them. And if you haven't already watched these things, your eyes will probably be opened. And but this is good. You need to do this. You need to understand reality, because we're all programmed with a bunch of lies, by romance movies, Hollywood, sometimes by our parents. Our parents often don't understand, because they don't understand that it's much, much harder now. Like, it was easier for me than it is for you, but it was still hard for me. My parents and my grandparents, their generation, it was totally different. Dating and marriage and all that. They didn't have super high divorce rates. They didn't have TikTok and all this stuff and social media. Okay, so man, I feel bad for young men now, and young women too, that the situation for dating and marriage and around the world now is so terrible. It's tough. If you're having a tough time in this area, It's not your fault, okay? It is tough. So you're gonna have to really learn some things and figure it out because, yeah, life is harder now than it was when I was younger. And it was still tough when I was young, but it's harder now for you guys. It's harder for jobs and money. It's more tough for relationships and dating and marriage. Very tough. So don't feel bad if you're having a hard time because yeah, it is tough. It's really tough now. So anyway, get on there. And young women, same thing. It probably wouldn't hurt you to watch some of these videos. They might make you angry, but I think they might open your eyes because women get lied to a lot too. They get lied to and they think, maybe things are going great in their 20s, and women are kind of lied to, young girls really are lied to that, oh yeah, just keep having fun, go out there, oh, you can wait. And suddenly, man, they're 32, 35, and suddenly like guys just are not so interested in them, especially the best guys, the really good guys, and then they have to choose maybe guys that are not so great anymore, and they're like, what happened? They think it's going to last forever, they think they're going to be young forever. No, you're not. All right, so work on these things, make these. And then the other thing you can do socially is there's a good YouTube channel called Charisma on Command. They also have a book, which is a nice book, Charisma on Command. But they got a lot of great videos. So this is especially if you're kind of an introvert, maybe you don't feel great talking to people you don't know, and it doesn't matter if it's guys or girls or in your job. Watch those videos because they really teach a lot of great skills about, some people call them soft skills, communication skills, charisma. Really, really helpful. And again, you don't need to change completely in 1 year, okay? Don't put too much pressure on yourself, just a little change. But if you do it every year, then 10 years from now, you'll be a very different person and a much happier person. Okay, so that's my final message of hope, is that however bad it is, just focus on these areas of life, make tiny improvements, and just don't give up. I promise you, 5 years from now, everything's going to be much better. 10 years from now, it's going to be huge. You'll be a different person with a different life. It's just like investing, right? You invest with interest, and, in 1 year, your money doesn't grow a lot. But in 10 years, your money might double or more, right? So it's the same idea. Don't lose hope. And the final thing, of course, is if you're really feeling terrible, don't do something foolish like hurting yourself. Talk to someone that loves you, maybe a parent or both parents, maybe a brother or sister, an uncle, an aunt, a cousin, a true friend. Just talk to somebody. You're not alone, okay? There's millions, probably billions of people in a similar position who feel the same. So you're not alone. It's not you. You're not worthless, okay? Not at all. Not at all. I went through all that. Many others have. Many. And you will too. All right. Let's get to our questions and comments now live. Adjust my camera here. And hey, Ibrahim, good to see you. What's new, AJ? Can you give us some updates? Are you still in the USA? Really miss you a lot. Yeah. So, I know I kind of disappear for the last 6 years. I've I've done some videos and audios, and I'll do some, then I disappear. So look, the truth is this, guys. It's my children, especially my son, he's had 3 heart surgeries and been in the hospital, more than that, for other tests and other things. And then also he's needs a lot of therapy. And I've been doing all that. I'm his therapist. I'm his full-time therapist. Speech therapy, physical therapy, neurological, brain therapy. I do it all every day. My wife, of course, helps too, but I'm the one who's researched it and plans it and design all the therapy that we're doing, and I'm constantly learning. I feel like I don't have an official degree, but I feel like I could be a therapist at this point because I've learned so much and I've been doing it with him. And he's doing great. It is working. He's just doing so much better. It's wonderful. But it does take a lot of my time and my energy. And then also, I'm also doing, we're doing homeschooling. So I'm teaching both my children, to read, math, all that. In fact, we're reading Lord of the Rings right now. We read The Hobbit this summer. And then now I'm reading to them. It's 6. They can't read this by themselves, but I'm reading it to them. And now we're reading Lord of the Rings. We just got to the part where Frodo gets stabbed in the shoulder by the Black Rider. So that's what I've been doing. That's why I'm not as so consistent here on YouTube. I'm a little more consistent. I do more audio podcasts now, but I've been gone for what, a month or 2 months now. I just got busy doing with all the therapy stuff. So that's what it is. I missed you guys. I love you. And I'm going to keep trying to do them. That's why I'm back now today doing a show. I'll keep doing them. I can't promise to do them, every day or every week, but I will continue doing shows. Especially, get a podcasting app and subscribe to Effortless English Podcast because I'm doing more audios. Just it's easier for me to do them sometimes. Vladislav says, just missed. Let me read his comment. Here you go. Probably you've noticed Gen Z seems to be waking up. They refuse to work hard for low wages. If they don't like their job, they will leave. Good. They don't spend money on things they don't really need. Yeah. And good. You shouldn't. Yeah, I support all that. I was the same way when I was young, and everyone told me I was crazy, because I was like weird but that's why I always hated jobs because, yeah, they just want to work you to death and pay you the smallest amount. And, a lot of these companies have an attitude like, you shouldn't have your own life. Like, your life should be their company. But as soon as money's tight, they'll cut your job in a minute, right? As soon as they want, they'll cut you and, oh, bye, sorry. And then you're unemployed. So yeah, don't give loyalty to a company, do your job so you can keep it and, do a good job for sure. Do that. But yeah, don't sacrifice your life to some company. They don't care about you. So, they're paying you some money. You do good work for them, and that's all. You don't owe them anything else. And if you can find a better job, leave. If you can find a better job that pays you more and gives you better benefits and you'll be happier at, leave immediately. You should always be looking for a new job. Always be looking for another job. Yeah, so Gen Z, I hope that is true because, yeah, man, you guys have it tough. It's hard. I don't know if I could survive. I don't know if I could handle being in Gen Z because, and now we got AI is coming, so that's going to take a lot of jobs. So yeah, man, it's tough for young people. It's tough. Dating situations really hard for you guys, worse than when I was young. And I suffered terribly in that area. So yeah, man, don't let old people tell you, oh, you just need to work hard and everything will be better. And like I did in my day. Well, it's different. Like those old people, they're not trying to be mean to you. Okay. And, maybe it might even be your parents, right? And they love you and care about you. But, a lot of them they don't understand. They just don't understand that it's not the same now as when they were young, right? Like dating is nothing like it was when they were young. And a lot of them just don't understand, especially if they've been married a long time. If your parents were, met when they were young and got married and they've stayed together, they have no idea what it's like now. They don't know how terrible it is. Okay. So, they're not trying to be mean. So try to be patient with them. But, you know, just they just don't understand. They don't understand. And they same with work, like my dad, his ideas about like work, and he worked for these big companies, and he worked for one big company such a long time. Uh, and he always used to criticize me because I would just jump around jobs all the time. But I was like, it's not the same. When he was young, people would get a job and they'd stay at one company their whole life and then retire. I'm like, that's not true anymore. No, he found out the hard way because eventually they forced him to retire early. So I said, I told you, Dad. I told you. Okay, user has a long okay, the username it's like a rose it looks like for the profile and user and a bunch of numbers, EK31. It says when one of your closest people tells you you're zero, you start believing it. Be careful about yes, you're right. And there's no hope left. It's a tough time for me. Yeah, man, it sucks if you're having a hard time and then someone that's close to you, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, a parent, a friend who's not really a friend, if they are just cutting you down even more, criticizing you, then that, man, that just is terrible. Yeah, I know. It's horrible. And I went through this with dating especially. And like it starts messing with your mind and you think like, um, like you're having a hard time and then suddenly this person you're dating is like, for example, is just attacking you and criticizing you and you're lazy. And, for example, if maybe you lose your job and instead of supporting you, they're just attacking you about it. Yeah, then you start to feel like zero. You start to feel that way, right? But you're not. Don't believe them. And it depends. If it's a parent, you can't really get rid of them. But but if it's a friend, I'm using quotes with my fingers. That means they're not really a friend, right? Because a real friend won't do that. A real friend will support you. But or if it's a so-called girlfriend or boyfriend, maybe just they're not a good person for you. This is a good test of relationships when things go bad. Everyone's great when everything's wonderful, right? But if you're in a relationship with somebody, dating somebody, and you go through a tough time, like you lose your job is a good test, and then they start attacking you and cutting you down and criticizing you, get rid of them. They're no good. They're no good. They're not going to get better. There's nothing you can do. I'm speaking from years and years of painful experience. Just get rid of them. I know it's, especially if you're like a nice guy and you're trained to be that way or a nice girl. And, you know, you want to hold on to them because you actually love them. And maybe you're afraid you're going to end up being alone. You're not going to be able to get someone else. And yeah, I know all those thoughts and fears. And I did that. I tried staying with people like that. And it just, I look back and I'm like, what? Why did I do it? Why? It was, you know, but so my advice is get rid of them. If it's a parent, you're just gonna have to set a strong boundary. When you become an adult, sometimes you still love your parents, but you sometimes have to be a little tough with them and just say, enough. I don't want to hear your criticism anymore. I'm having a hard time. You're not helping me. I'm feeling bad. And if you're going to criticize me like this, I just don't want to talk to you for a while. Okay, not forever, right? But say, I'm going to take a break. I'm not going to talk to you for a couple months until you start being more positive because I need you to be more. It's hard sometimes to do that, right? Because you're used to being the little kid and your parents are up high. But once you become an adult, you have to kind of change the relationship. You're both adults now. And if you have understanding parents, it's great. They might be able to give you nice advice. But if you have a parent who's not, and some people do, have parents who kind of cut them down, then you might need to be a little stronger with them and just say enough. Sally Swan says, you don't look like someone who faced such things. You inspire people with your confidence and strong character. You're amazing. Thank you. Well, yeah, right. Because it was year by year. If you'd seen me when I was 30, I mean, I go back and I look at, there's like a couple videos and some pictures of myself when I was 25, let's say. And I have, I think of memories of like things that happened when I was 25. And I just have this feeling like, in English, we say cringe, like, I just get this horrible, terrible feeling inside. And I just think like, why did I let myself be treated that way? Why did I just keep doing the same foolish things again and again? And I was ignorant. I had no idea, and I was, I had all this kind of emotional pain from being bullied and, and all that. And, I see it now, but at the time, yeah, ugh, I still think of that. I just think, oh, I was such a weak, foolish idiot. But, d- like I said, just keep making little improvements. And then, you can too. 10 years from now, you can look back and laugh at yourself. What's the difference between flow English and power English? Flow English was made, I don't know if it's available anymore. I made that course with a guy named Chris Moses, who I went to school with. I did a master's program with him. And then after Effortless English, I wanted to help him, you know, uh, and so I suggested, why don't I'll help you make a course? And that's what we made. I went to where he lived and we recorded that course together. But it's his course. I don't own it. It's not mine. And I thought I saw. Let's see. I don't know if it's still available. He may have finally stopped doing it. Let me just look at the website. Flowenglish.com. Is it still there? Yeah. See, I don't think there's a website. Nope. It's done. So he's not doing it anymore. It was Flow English was a more of a low like a high beginner course, more of a beginner's course. Power English is more intermediate. But if you're listening to me now and you understand me now, Power English is the better course. Flow English will be too easy for you. So just get Power English on my website, effortlessenglishclub.com. It's on the screen there. Hassan saying, I'd like to take a one-on-one course with you. Unfortunately, I just don't have time to do it. I don't do one-on-one because, as I was saying earlier, especially, I'm so busy doing therapy and teaching and homeschooling with my children that I hardly have time to do these videos. So I'm sorry, but just get my course and use my course. Get Power English, and I think you'll enjoy it. Says another one was at AV6R says, we missed you. Please don't forget us. Make a live once a week. Japanese say gambarimasu means I'll try my best. I'll do my best. What did you experience, DD Fitness? Hey, good to see you again. What did you experience at the turning point of your life? So here's what it was. Sometimes you'll hear stories people talk about like their life's one way, and then one big thing happens, and then their life changes completely, right? That does happen. That happens to people. There's a guy named Brendan Burchard. He's a motivational guy. And his kind of main speech, he talks about his life was one way, and then he had a car accident and almost died. And then that changed like his whole life, how he saw life. He realized he could die, and then he started doing everything in his life differently. That's not what happened with me. Okay, I just what I'm telling you today is this Kaizen approach. What it was more like for me is like compound interest. It's just that through especially my 20s and my 30s, I just kept trying to improve myself, right? Like I would do exercise and some martial arts. I was just reading lots. I knew I was not happy in working. I had this dream of starting my own business, but I wasn't ready. So but I was reading books about business and studying it just by myself a lot, every year, little by little. And then, with relationships and dating, I was also doing that. Now, unfortunately, in the beginning, I read all this stuff that was basically written by women or girly men. I don't know how else to say it. Okay. And, they weren't trying to hurt anybody, but, maybe they had good advice for women. I don't know what to tell women about dating. Okay. Cause I'm not a woman, but I just know that nice guy, kind of girly boy, super kind of feminine approach does not work for most men. I tried it. I try to just be more nice and in touch with my feelings. I'm already very in touch with my feelings. Okay. So I tried doing all that and it was a freaking disaster. Okay, it actually made my life more miserable. It made sure that women respected me even less, treated me even more badly, used me more badly, betrayed me more. It was terrible. But I kept trying to improve, even though I failed badly in that area. I kept looking. And then around age 38, 39, I found, this red pill stuff. It didn't exist. At least I didn't know about it online. It wasn't so easy. It's so easy now. It's out there everywhere. But it so it changed everything. I suddenly like it's opened my mind. So that was probably one big turning point. But still, it took me many years after that to change because I'd spent all my life thinking and acting one way in this like super sensitive kind of, you know, feminine type of way, honestly. And so it took me, many years to shift and change that. So it wasn't like what it basically was is all these little tiny improvements added up, and then suddenly, like around age 38, 39, 40, they all added up, and that is what created a big change. Like suddenly my life did kind of click and shift. It felt like it happened suddenly, but the truth is, it's like compounding interest, right? It's just like, or an investment. It's just like you keep adding money and saving and investing, and then suddenly one of them takes off. It feels like it happens suddenly, but really, it's something that has added up over a long time, and then it was finally it all adds up, and you start to see big changes. It's a many years of tiny small changes, and then finally you'll start to see the big changes. So that's what happened with me. It wasn't like one thing, not like a car accident or some one thing. It was a whole lot of little things. World Cup 2026. If you're going to be there, please mention us. Where is World Cup 2020? Is it America this year? I'm in America. So that's someone Abraham was asking me. I'm in America right now in Indiana. We're going to Japan next month. We're going to go visit Japan for probably about 6 months, I think, 5 months. We're thinking because we've been gone from Japan for a while. So we're going to go back and stay in Japan until this summer, I think. But we'll spend Christmas here. In fact, we have snow right now here in Indiana. We have snow. Yeah, I missed you too, Abraham. Good to see you. Oh, take off my jacket. I'm getting warm. Okay, Dee Dee says we shouldn't lose our hope. We should be prepared for the opportunities ahead. Exactly. That's exactly. We need to improve ourselves and stay away from bad habits. Well, that's right. That's part of it too, is that by improving yourselves, by not losing hope, okay, things are bad, things are bad, things are bad, but eventually you do get opportunities in life. If you're hopeless and depressed, you won't do anything. You'll have an opportunity, but you won't act. You won't do anything because you let yourself give up. But if you can just keep your motivation up, you just make these small improvements, then when finally opportunities do come, bam, you jump on them. You're ready. Good point. I like your tie. It's new. Thank you. Spanish Access says, "What a lovely surprise. I was worried about you. I didn't see more of your live streams." I knew. Like, I've just been busy with my kids. That's all it is. So it's good. It's a good kind of busy. Yeah, AVR6 says, my words about life: don't envy jealous people, because if they offer their problem, they'll prefer to stay in your side. Yeah, just don't envy. Especially now, envy's a problem because of social media. It's a bigger problem. It's human nature, right? It's always been a problem, but it's bigger now because people go on social media, Instagram and Facebook especially, and you see all these pictures, maybe even of friends or people you went to school with, or just influencers, whatever that means. And they're showing this perfect life. Here's me on my vacation in Thailand, and here's me with my great car, and they're putting everything, they're like perfect, perfect, perfect. Uh, so sometimes it's easy. People think, oh well, no, my life's not perfect. I have a lot of problems. Oh, I'm struggling. I'm not making much money right now. I'm not happy in my job. I'm single. I can't find anybody. And so you start to either feel bad and depressed because you're comparing yourself to their social media, or maybe feel a little jealous, like, why can't I have all that? Well, listen, that's fake. It's fake. It's marketing. They're marketing themselves. They're only showing the very best things. You don't really know what their life's like. Maybe they're married, their marriage is terrible. Maybe they just scream and yell at each other and they're super unhappy, but they put this super happy photo on Instagram. We're so happy as a family. And then right after they take the picture, they're screaming and yelling again. You don't know. Don't go by social media. Social media is fake. Instagram, all those videos and things now, they're all staged. They're not real. Now people are using AI to create them, or they put filters on their face to make themselves look, younger or prettier, right? People are commenting, you look older. Yeah, I'm 58, guys. You get older. I'm not going to use any filters or anything. It's ridiculous. Amina says, are you still in America? Yes. Will you go back to Japan? Yeah. So in January, I'll do some streams from Japan again. Someone asking, will you do an engineering course? Yes. English for engineers. It's still one of my ideas, just waiting to get the time to do it. Hi from Brazil. How can I not lose hope after 5 years of studying? Again, everything I was saying today is you just gotta just focus. I find it's best to focus just on like 1 year at a time, or even 1 month at a time, and just you're studying for a reason, I assume. So eventually you'll be done. You will be done eventually, and at that point, hopefully things get better. If you're not enjoying the studying part. Yeah, well, Solab says, what about dealing with stress and anxiety? These things make people lose hope. For sure. Well, yeah, exactly right. I think it's another benefit of focusing on your body as the first step, because exercise helps with stress, helps tremendously with stress. Anyone who's works out or runs, the feeling. You're feeling terrible, you're thinking about all your problems, you feel stress, and you go to the gym and you do a hard workout and you just forget it all, because right, and the stress just kind of goes away. Or I get that with martial arts too, like jujitsu. Feel all the stress, go to jujitsu, start sparring. I can't think about all that junk in my head. I'm while someone's trying to choke me. So it just it's gone, and then you leave there feeling much better. And of course, there's also physical things that happen that with your brain chemistry that help you deal with stress. So, and you could also just go for a run, a nice long run, or even just a long walk. So, a lot of stress is a physical thing, right? It may start in your brain, but it comes out in your body, right? Tension and all these, and chemical reactions in your body. So deal with it with your body first, and that'll help you deal with the stress better. Best thing you can do when you're feeling super stressed is move your body. Get out and go for a walk, a long walk, or a run, or a hard workout. Yeah, see, like Vahidkari. I can't remember. I remember when I was young, I really wanted to learn English. I used exactly the method you're suggesting right now, and it really worked. Great. Okay, let me just. Hey Jay, on social media, some videos are made by AI and some are real. We can't compare them. Yeah, some are real, some are AI, but even the real ones sometimes are kind of fake, meaning like I'll tell you a trick that, for example, there's there are people who sell like business courses or investing, and how to be successful. And a lot of these guys, you'll notice it's kind of a similar website and similar pictures on their social media. Like it's always them standing in front of like a private plane with a suitcase or something, or standing in front of a Ferrari. right? Now, if they actually really are rich, maybe that is their plane. Maybe that is their car. But a lot of them, it's fake. It's not their plane. They just went out there. Maybe they paid some money or they had a friend. So they just to go out and take pictures in front of it. That's not their private plane. They're not flying on that thing. And the same with the Ferrari. They could just take a Ferrari, they could just go for a test drive. They could go to a dealer and do a test drive of the Ferrari, take a bunch of pictures of themselves, right? They put them on their website, Ferrari, them in front of a Ferrari. And then everyone thinks, oh, wow, they drive a Ferrari. They've got private planes. Right? It's not real. It's fake. The pictures are real. I mean, they're not AI, but it's not their real life. Your hair's grown. I remember you were bald. Yeah, I usually, almost always, I shave my head in the summer. It gets hot, and then I let it grow. Start letting it grow more in the winter. What's your advice for someone who has a big dream to achieve? Says Red Dad Garagi. Boy, these usernames are really hard to read. Um, Same advice for some. If you have a big dream, get excited about it. That's great. But uh, sometimes when people have a big dream, they can start to feel unmotivated because it feels too big, right? Because it feels, well, now my life, I'm nowhere close. It's so far away and it feels impossible. So, again, I would say focus on those little, you need to break your big dream or your big goal into very small pieces. And then just focus on, okay, what do I do now? What do I need to do this month to get one step closer to my dream? Let's say your dream is, I don't know. I'll just use money because it's easy, it's numbers. I want to have $100 million, let's say. So, and now you've got $20, right? Seems impossible. So if you don't just think, oh, I'm going to make $100 million this year, that's crazy, um, because it's almost impossible to. That's such a huge jump. Maybe it could happen, but most people will feel less motivation. They'll think, there's no way I can do that. So you may just think, oh, this year I want to save $1,000. That's a step closer. You're nice making money, right? And then the next year, each year you add your goals and adjust and try to get closer. And maybe you never make it to 100 million, but maybe you get 10 million, you're still going to be in good shape. Why do people keep trying to bring you down? Well, that is a good question. Because there are just, it's either there are bad people in the world, a lot of them, and there are also people who just have a lot of emotional problems, and they're not necessarily bad people, but got, all that those emotional problems cause them to do bad things. And either way, sometimes they don't like, it might be jealous or envy, like you start doing better than them. Like there are some friends, bad friends, fake friends, uh, who will try to pull down other friends when they start succeeding, right? Women do this a lot with their friends, right? One woman gets married and has a happy marriage, and suddenly all her single friends start giving her terrible advice that hurts her marriage because they're kind of jealous. They're trying to pull her down, bring her back, right? And guys do this too. Um, so, you know, if you have people around you trying to bring you down, you need to get them out of your life. Can't always do it. Like if they're at your job, you might be forced to deal with them for a while, but maybe that's a sign to get a different job. But that can take time, right? But as much as you can, push those people out of your life. If they're in your family, deal with them less, or start, like I said, start being more direct with them and telling them to stop. I'm stressed because my country's becoming a dictatorship. What's funny is I have no idea what country you're talking about, but probably a whole lot of us could say this. All right. So here's the thing. Do you have control over that? No. Do you have any power to change it? No, probably not. So you're just gonna have to deal with it. Don't let yourself get depressed about things you cannot control at all, right? Like politics. It's all a show, it's a big lie. Don't get all stressed about it. You know, if you can do something, fine, do something. But if you can't, you're just gonna have to adjust and deal with it. How's your kid after the surgery? He's doing fantastic. This is Code with Shattuck. He's doing very, very, very well. Especially this year, we started a whole new kind of therapy with him. And wow, it's just, he's doing great. He's so, yeah, like I feel like a huge weight coming off my shoulders. So yeah, long way to go, but much better. You're handsome again, says Mine Boston. Well, that's nice. Thank you. Usually people say, you're getting older. I need to change my pictures on my website. I haven't done pictures like professional pictures for the website in a long time. So all the pictures on my website are me at least 10 years ago, I think. Have I had surgery? No, not me. No, 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 no. This is a very good question. Zuber Muhammad says, what if you keep getting brought down by everything in life? Yeah, I know, right? Family, friendship, relationships, careers, and hobbies. Nothing was inspiring anymore. How would you find hope again at that point? Start with one thing. I know. This was me when I was younger. Everything. I didn't mention family, but my parents got divorced when I was in university. So on one hand, it was good. I wasn't a small child because that's the worst. If parents divorcing when the kids are little, but it affected me, right? I was 20 at the time, 21. But yeah, like suddenly, like and it was not a nice divorce. They never talked to each other ever again. My mom and my dad, and my sister got all. It was crazy. It was terrible. So my family terrible. At that same time, my first girlfriend cheated on me with a married guy. It was horrible. That shattered my whole world about like dating and women, and I went crazy for a while after that. Um, I had a bunch of fake friends who weren't real friends, and they end up showing that when I needed them, they just disappeared. They just wanted to have fun and kind of have a good party time. They didn't want to deal with anything real or difficult in life. So relationships, I told you, that was a disaster. Career, I graduated from school, was super broke. I mean, broke. I had to borrow money on credit cards just to survive. Um, and I and I had no hobbies. So I lived this. I was right there, Mohammed. Exactly what you're talking about. What did I do at that point? Actually, what I did, I focused on one thing, which was the money part, career. So at that time, when I was 20, it was really more like 22. All those things happened in a few years, but I graduated. I was miserable and I was so broke and it was stressing me out. The money stuff was really, everything else was bad. And then plus, I was so stressed and going into huge debt and I couldn't pay the debts. So I decided, okay, I just picked one of these things. You can pick any one of them. I picked career and I thought, I've got to go back to school. I decided I was going to go to grad school. I'm like, this degree I have is useless. I was just playing around in undergrad and didn't think about money or school or work at all. My fault. That was my responsibility. But I decided, okay, I'm going to go back. I decided to become a social worker. And so I started studying for the GRE, the test you have to take, and started applying to schools and I got in and blah blah blah. But so that helped. That helped. In fact, that definitely my life got better when I got into grad school. That was a couple of years in grad school. It was a nice time. I had a good time in grad school. And afterwards, I was able to get some jobs with enough money. Not a lot. Social workers don't make much money, but it was definitely better than before. It was enough where I could, I didn't have to borrow money. I didn't have to use credit cards. I could have an apartment and food and, you know, basically not stress if I lived simply. So I'd say to you, you can't changing everything totally at once in a short time. not going to happen probably, but you just pick one thing first. Like I said, you can always pick your body. If there's nothing else, get into great shape. Just go to the gym and work out like crazy and run and lift weights, or just become in great physical shape. You can always do that. But if not, you could maybe focus on career first. Pick one thing but try to improve everything. But you can maybe focus a lot on one thing. And then you start getting some success in that one thing, and it'll start making you feel better. And you start realizing, well, okay, I did it with my money. Maybe I can do it with other things too. And you can start little by little building up. Sinmilla says, how to create a good friendship, a good relationship with your children when you live far apart. Well, I don't know yet because my kids are still small. I always joke, I tell my kids that I'm going to follow them. I'll say, I'll just follow you, live where you want, and I'm going to follow you, and I'm going to live in the same place you do. So, I guess I could think about it as a son. I was very close to my mom, even though I always lived far from her. Because after that divorce I mentioned, my mom left. I was in Georgia and she moved back to here, actually, Indiana. But then I was traveling. I lived in Japan. I lived in Thailand. I lived in Korea, Japan again, San Francisco. But, I talked to my mom on the phone almost every day, probably 4 or 5 times a week. And now we have video. Then it was just phone, like there was no video. And well, in the beginning, later, obviously, Skype came along, and then I would do video calls with her. So that helps a lot. And my wife does that right now, like just this morning, my wife and my kids, it's not quite, it's maybe like once a week. Or maybe twice a week, probably about twice a week, 2 times a week, they call Japan and talk to my wife's parents and, my kids' grandparents. And it really does help. It keeps that connection. I think that the frequency is important. Like, I think it's important to have frequent communication. So, at least once a week. I think more than once a week is even better. And I remember telling my mom, I said, especially when my kids came, like, I'd love to just talk to you every day. We can just talk 5 minutes. Just let the kids see that you can see the babies and say hi. So I'd say build that kind of habit with your kids. And now it's so great because this is one of the good things we have now about technology is these video calls. You can see their face. It's nice. My kids, Mary Poppins asked, how old are your kids? They're 6. 6 twins. All right, I'll do a couple more. I'm going kind of long today. Thank you for your lessons, AJ. You have very good diction. Thank you. After your lessons, it's hard to understand those who don't. Oh, yeah, sorry. So saying I have good diction, but after listening to me, sometimes hard to understand other people who don't have good pronunciation. Yeah, well, I can even have problems understanding English with bad pronunciation or just weird accents and things like that. So you'll get used to it. You just got to listen to it more often. But it's best to learn with good pronunciation first so that you will speak well. And then later you can get better at understanding people with accents or with not good pronunciation, let's just say. Yeah, Zubra Muhammad, good luck to you. No worries. All right, let's see. Code with Shattuck says, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. That's a quote from the Shawshank Redemption. Very, 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 very good. Do I speak American or British? American. Vladislav says, thank you for your show. After a long time, great topic. Hope you never give up. I won't. I'll keep doing it. It might not be as much as we like, but I'll keep doing this. All right, guys. I think that's all. It was great to get back with you live here. I'll put the audio here on my audio podcast. Please follow my audio podcast. You can use any podcast app and then just search for Effortless English Podcast and subscribe. All information about my courses is here, effortlessenglishclub.com, effortlessenglishclub.com. Mwah! Lots of love to you. Don't lose hope. I promise you things can and will get better. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Bye-bye.